I cannot believe I've lost my nephew and 2 sons. My wife is taking all of this really hard. Just yesterday, the police found my stepson, Manuel Rebenga, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot to the head. The police gave me Manuel's diary, which he periodically wrote in. As I was reading through it hoping for answers, his last few entries will forever haunt me. I am showing the last entries as the ones before were normal and not out of the ordinary. May God help us all. May 12th, 2011. It has been over a week since my younger half-brother Emilio Cortez and cousin Hector Flores passed away. Their deaths were ruled as suicide by self-inflicted gunshot to the head, but there is currently an investigation on it due to suspicious deep cuts on their chests and wrists. However, I couldn't help but feel the shady VHS tape they purchased at a garage sale was responsible, because in the living room they were found in, the words, "Every day above ground is a good day," were written in blood. It's a quote from a movie, and the tape itself was found a few feet away from their bodies. But then again, I'm a very superstitious person, so I could be just paranoid. I don't know why I have such a strange feeling about the tape, though. The tape itself was the movie Scarface. However, I never got around to watching it despite being a huge fan of the movie. May 13th, 2011. I want to go back home. Fort Worth is a depressing city to me now. While I did grow up here and have good memories from my childhood, it will now be overshadowed by my brother's and cousin's double funeral. The only good thing was that Oakwood Cemetery has a good view of the downtown skyline of the city I once loved. Well, I already booked my flight, so I better start packing. May 14, 2011. My mom came over to visit the motel I was staying at. I wish I could help her out. She's seriously depressed over all of this. My stepdad Rodolfo came over also, and I just want to cry with him. Emilio was his only biological child. Well, I got to get to the airport. My flight back home leaves in an hour. My mom told me to keep an eye on my mail, so I will. May 17th, 2011. I just received in the mail the Scarface tape and a CD. I put the tape aside and played the CD on my computer. It was a video of Emilio and Hector in what looked like the Polytechnic Heights area of Fort Worth, just goofing off and walking around with 6 of their friends. Their area was confirmed when I saw the abandoned 1940s-era Poly Theater off Von Blavd. Then they walked into a nearby neighborhood where Hector lived, and soon, they started their usual antics once they were in the house. I soon started to get teary-eyed as Emilio said into the camera, "Ha ha man, Rebenga, you should have come with us. Look at what you're missing out on." Then the video stopped. When it played again, it showed everyone watching the tape on TV. I could clearly make out the movie mostly due to the fact that the camera was facing the TV. At the part where Tony Montana watches Omar Sares get executed by hanging from the helicopter, things started to get weird. The film started to distort like all old VHS tapes do, and everyone started to say the tape was messed up. Then the video just abruptly stopped. At this point I started crying as I had realized the video was made 2 days before Hector's and Emilio's suicide. May 19th, 2011. I decided to watch the tape as I didn't have the movie on DVD. Everything went smooth until the same scene where Omar is executed. The tape then started to distort. After maybe a minute, all I heard was disembodied voices and more static. After waiting patiently for another minute, the tape resumed. However, what I saw disturbed me. Tony was staring straight at me, and no matter where I moved, his eyes followed me. After a few minutes, he said in his thick accent, "So you gonna stop moving, Chico? Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you. At least not now." Then he let out a very creepy demonic laugh, and then the film resumed to Omar's execution. I took the tape out and I started to wonder if this had to do with Emilio's and Hector's suicide. The logical part of me thinks the marijuana I was smoking was laced with something, but I smoked it hours ago, so it can't be that. Either way, that scared the shit out of me, and it was burned deeply into my mind, and the image stayed with me throughout the day. May 20th, 2011. I could not sleep at all last night. All I could think of was the laugh Tony had made. It played over and over again in my mind, and I'm scared to go to the bathroom. I went 2 hours ago, and when I looked in the mirror, I clearly saw Tony standing behind me, smiling at me with this look of pure evil. His white suit was stained with blood, and his face slowly morphed into that of something demonic, and he slowly walked towards my reflection and stabbed it from behind. I watched my reflection slump to the ground dead, and Tony, who transformed into a demon, looked straight into my eyes. His eyes were bloodshot, and the pupils were red. We made eye contact for about a few minutes before pointing at me and saying in a low, booming voice, "Your brother's soul is mine, and you will be next." After he said that, he vanished and my reflection was back. I left my house afterwards, and it's like no matter where I go, I always see Tony in the corner of my eye. I'm gonna go visit my mom. I haven't seen her since the funeral. Hopefully this will get my mind off everything. May 21st, 2011. I arrived back in Fort Worth and went to my mom's house. Once again I saw Tony in the mirror. He had a cigar in his mouth and he just kept staring at me. He then made a big toothy grin and vanished. I think I'm losing my mind. I don't know what's real anymore. However, I'm gonna ignore it. I'm here for my family, not to worry about some demonic fictional character stalking me. I spent the rest of the day talking on the phone to a friend that was on the video with Emilio. Strange to hear that 4 out of 6 of the guys have vanished. He tells me he feels he is being stalked, but after telling him my story, he got extremely scared and started to panic. I could swear I heard a roar in the background, and that's when the call got disconnected. He later called me sounding normal and apologizing for earlier. He thought he had seen something enter his house. After a few minutes of chatting, we hung up, and I went to bed. May 23rd, 2011. I have had enough of this bullshit. Now I know Tony is stalking me, and I now truly believe 100% that he is what drove my little brother and cousin to brutally kill themselves. I looked into my suitcase, and there was the tape. It's like he's mocking me, like he knows I'm scared. Well, I showed him. I got the tape, and I stomped on it and smashed it until it was completely destroyed. Maybe now this will end the nightmare. May 27th, 2011. It has been a surprisingly normal 4 days. After I hugged my mom and stepdad goodbye, I booked a flight back to LA, and now we'll have to drive back home to Fontana. On the flight, I met a cute woman who sat next to me. Her name is Myra, and it turns out she lives not far from me, so I think I will call her and try to set up a date. Wish me luck. June 5th, 2011. It has been 1 month since the suicides, and I'm glad to say I had not seen Tony at all. I think the destruction of the tape finally got rid of that menace. Now that the nightmare is over, tomorrow I will watch Emilio's and Hector's last video one more time before I put it away. On a brighter note, me and Mayra really hit it off. I'm glad to say I may have found love for the first time in a long time. I'm so happy. Well, I'ma call it a day. Good night. June 6th, 2011. I put the CD of Hector and Emilio in my computer again and began to watch it. Everything was fine and going smoothly up until the part where they entered Hector's house. The video started to distort, and the disembodied voices in the background appeared just like on the Scarface tape. I thought it was odd because this is a CD, not a VHS tape, so I didn't know what to think. After a few minutes, the video stopped distorting, and instead of seeing Hector and Emilio and their friends watching the film, they were all staring right at me, just like Tony did in the tape. I couldn't believe it. It was happening again, but with them. After a few minutes, everyone except Emilio started chanting, "Rebenga, Rebenga, Rebenga," in an endless loop while Emilio continued to stare at me. He then tilted his head down with his eyes looking at me reminiscent of the Kubrick stare, and shouted in a deep voice, "Rebenga!" Everyone kept chanting, "Rebenga, Rebenga, Rebenga," and I screamed in terror and quickly took the CD out of the computer, but even then that didn't work. Emilio then said to me, "Nice try, brother, but you should have never destroyed the tape." I asked him what did he want, and he told me, "We want you to join us. Only in death can we all be together again." He then explained that all 6 of their friends had committed suicide within the next few weeks, after I had watched the tape, and said that now that I had watched it, I was next. The computer then went black, and I was never able to turn it back on. June 7th, 2011. I have officially gone insane. I would find nonsense words on the wall, then in the blink of an eye they would vanish. I look in the mirror, and every single time without fail, Emilio would appear instead of my reflection. He was covered in blood, his eyes were red and filled with rage, and I would see blood spilling from his mouth. Then he would shout, "Rebenga!" and vanish. Mayra left me because I attacked her when she came over. I just don't understand. When the door opened, I swear on my life I saw Tony again, and I attacked him with a baseball bat. After I opened my eyes, it was Mayra, and she just walked out and screamed. I don't know what to do anymore. Ima leaves this house. I have money right now, so Ima buys myself a little present. Scarface Rebenga, hit Rebenga, June 8th, 2011. I cannot take this any longer. I had purchases a 9mm handgun yesterday, and I just wrote a message on Facebook to all my friends and family telling them I love them and will miss them. I cannot believe I'm gonna do this. I hope God can forgive me, but I can't take this no more. I had just realized the similarities between the movie and me, Hector and Emilio. The character that tries to rob Tony, his name was Hector the Toad. And the politician who Tony assassinated in Freedom Town? His name was Emilio Rebenga, and shortly before the scene in which he was murdered, the crowd was chanting Rebenga, 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 just like they did in the video. It was like me, and Emilio and Hector were destined to be doomed with this curse. Maybe our 6 friends weren't meant to die by Tony's curse. Maybe they were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. I have to go now. I can hear them now, calling me. I must join them, but before I do that, I must leave a message to whoever finds my body that their lives and sanity is to not be taken for granted. Now I'm gonna grab this razor and slash my wrist so I can write my last message with my blood on the wall for whoever finds me. Hopefully they will read it and understand. Every day above ground is a good day. It's heartbreaking to see a timeline of someone's descent into insanity, especially of the boy who I raised since he was 4. I went over to the house who had the garage sale that sold the alleged cursed tape, and they told me that they never owned the movie, that it was there from the previous owners of the house. After some research, I learned the previous owners of the house were involved in the occult and devil worshipping, and now I hear there are similar stories to what happened to my sons and nephew all around the city. The odd part? They are all linked to objects that were sold at that garage sale. After I tried to go to the house again to reveal this information, I discovered the house was burnt down. Now with the house gone and the owners nowhere in sight, it seems that my quest for answers will never be completed. Rest in peace to Emilio Cortez, Hector Flores, and Manuel Rebenga. I love and miss you guys. Manuel, I'm sorry. I feel like your death was my fault. I was the one who mailed the tape to you in the first place. I love you and I hope you can forgive me. I will never take my life and sanity for granted. I will live my life to fullest and pray to God. I can see you again when my time comes. Until the day we meet again, may you and Emilio and Hector find the peace and death y'all didn't get in life. Your loving father and uncle, Rodolfo Cortez.